Hi there everybody, it's Adam Bushnell the author, and this is Belle the dog. Can everybody say hello to Belle the dog? Now, this is my pet dog, and today we're actually going to be talking about pets because we're reading this book here which is called Quests in Epica. I'll read you the back. It says, Emily has always wanted a pet. She has longed for a dog, would love a cat, adore a stick insect, or a slug, or a nit. Anything would have done. But what arrived would change her life forever. I'm going to read chapter 1 here on this post and then do a different chapter for each post. May or may not feature Belle the dog. Let's see what she thinks of this chapter. Now the first chapter is called The Squick Habit. Mrs. Hackingbottom looked exactly like a Christmas tree. Her legs resembled thin tree trunks that impossibly held up her enormous body. She wore a tent-like green dress that was covered in glittering sequins that flashed and shimmered with every waddle, reflecting the strict fluorescent lighting of the classroom. Her bauble earrings jangled with every step, and the star-shaped tiara that adorned her head was sat at an angle that could only be described as jaunty. It was not just her attire that made her appear so festive, it was also her shape. The lady was very, very, very bottom heavy. She was a living, walking pyramid of a woman. "Right, class," she said in a voice that sounded exactly like Queen Victoria's. "Sit up and sit smart, now." Mrs. Hackingbottom was Emily's teacher, and she was not a nice lady. "I said now." Emily sat up straighter and smarter than usual. She wanted to be let out first at break time. She had seen something stalking its way across the schoolyard earlier, and she wanted to see if it was still there. A cat. Emily longed for a cat. Or a dog. Or a rabbit. Or anything really. A stick insect would have done, but she was not allowed pets of any sort in her flat where she lived with her mum. The bell screeched madly, and all eyes were on Mrs. Hackingbottom. The smile that invaded her face was kept to a quivering line. She loved this. Power over children. Her eyes danced over each expectant face. Emily kept her own gaze focused on her desk. "Red group," the teacher said slowly. "You may go." Emily and the rest of Red Group silently walked out of the classroom. Once outside, Emily raced across the yard towards the patch of trees where the cat had disappeared earlier. Looking over her shoulder, she could see the rest of the school pouring out of the double doors like a mouth spewing children onto the tarmac of the playground. She did not want to scare away the cat. She crouched low and peered behind the trees. Brown fur was curled into a ball. Emily peered around and saw that no one else was near. She reached out her hands slowly. Her fingers found fur. It was soft and warm. A purring sound filled the small space that's surrounded by trees. Emily smiled and sat cross-legged, stroking the little creature. It turned its head towards her and Emily gasped. The cat was indeed a cat, but it had the longest ears of any cat she had ever seen before. They flopped and lolloped over its ears. The cat rabbit rubbed its head into Emily's hand and purred even louder. It shook its tail with delight and Emily gasped again. It had a huge bushy tail like a giant squirrel. She also noticed that its paws were covered in green fur. Green fur? What kind of cat was this? It was half cat, half rabbit and half squirrel. No, wait. That was too many halves. Mrs. Hackingbottom would have been furious. It was part cat, part rabbit, and part squirrel with green fur. It was what was it? A squick habit. Yes, Emily smiled at the thought. A squick habit. The creature padded slowly towards Emily and curled up on her lap. It was pure bliss and pleasure. A pet, a real pet. A pet that no one else had ever seen before, and it was all hers. The smile broadened and then vanished as the bell for end of break boomed across the yard. The squid cabbit leapt in fright and bounded for the trees. "No," called Emily desperately. "Don't go. I'll be back at lunchtime, I promise. I'll bring you some food." The furry face seemed to understand. It just blinked once in agreement. Emily's smile returned. "Don't go anywhere." She skipped towards school with her wide grin tattooed on her face. Her packed lunch that she had made herself that morning had chicken sandwiches inside. She would smuggle the chicken out of school in her pockets and feed her new pet. She would make it trust her. She would take it home and... Her mum would never let it keep it, though. Perhaps old Don next door would, though. He was kind and looked after her all the time while her mum was at work. He was an old man who would love the company of a squid cabbit. She was sure. Emily's mind raced around and around as she entered the classroom. "Late!" screeched Mrs. Hackingbottom. Emily suddenly felt her face fall. "Sorry, miss," she whispered. "Speak up, girl," the teacher wailed. "I don't like mumbling." Her earrings and tiara wobbled as she shouted. I said sorry, miss," Emily said. "Don't you backchat me. How rude." Emily kept silent. "Haven't you anything to say for yourself?" Emily shook her head. "Lunchtime detention." "No," Emily blurted. "Please, miss, no." The snake-like smile slithered across Mrs. Hackingbottom's face. "Oh, yes," she cooed. "I have lots of jobs that need doing in the classroom." That's the end of chapter 1. Did Belle go to sleep during that chapter? That's not a good advert for my book. Well, maybe it could be a bedtime book. I hope you enjoyed chapter 1. Chapter 2 will be coming shortly. And in the meantime, some things to consider from chapter 1. Maybe you'd like to design your own squid cabbit, or maybe your own crazy mixed up pet. Talk to your family about what you think is going to happen. Is Emily going to get her pet? What jobs is Mrs. Hackingbottom going to do? Maybe even draw a picture of the Christmas tree-like woman, Mrs. Hackingbottom. If you want to send me any of your pictures, any of your ideas for stories, any unusual places where you like reading your books, do you like reading your stories to your pet or to your toys? Share your ideas with me. Subscribe and put some comments on my YouTube channel. Get in touch on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or drop me an email from my website, adambushnell.co.uk. Anyway, I hope you liked chapter 1, and I'll see you soon for chapter 2.